We are in mid-April 2021, a little over a year since the beginning of COVID, and a lot has happened, specifically with mortgages, forbearances, loan modifications, and foreclosures. Basically, there's been all kinds of moratoriums and foreclosure stops that are happening. However, there's a really big one happening in May, in a few weeks, that's going to affect all mortgages. The big problem right now, however, is that because there is that possible stop of all foreclosures in 2022, the mortgage companies are causing something called a foreclosure surge to happen right now. There's basically a rush by a lot of these mortgage companies to file foreclosures before the new rule happens. Now, the new rule, just so some of you don't understand or don't know, the new rule basically is going to stop all new foreclosures until 2022. That means that if you're in default, or if you have a situation where you're in forbearance, you've come out of forbearance, they cannot file a new foreclosure until next year without several things happening before they can file the foreclosure. Now, this affects all mortgages, federally backed and private loans. This is a rule change to something called Regulation X, which is not part of the CARES Act. It's part of the general federal law that governs all mortgages. So it's a very big deal. My name is Diego Mendez. I'm a bankruptcy, loan modification, foreclosure lawyer here in Miami, Florida. I've seen a lot of these things over the last 10 to 12 years that I've been doing this kind of practice. And right now we're moving into a very strange stage in the COVID financial meltdown. Basically, there's a lot of moratoriums and different overlapping protections for homeowners that are going to expire, and the government's about to launch a brand new one that might have unintended consequences for millions and millions of homeowners. We're moving into a very dangerous stage for people who are in forbearances, who are looking at the fact that they're not going to be able to pay their homes. The end of forbearances is going to cause basically a wave of foreclosures, and the government's trying to figure out how to stop that. They're proposing a new rule change that would affect all mortgages, federally backed and non-federally backed private mortgages, that would basically delay foreclosures until 2022. However, this protection is not a protection for all mortgages, even though it applies to all mortgages. There is a group of people right now who have been in foreclosure for a little while, or who have been in default, who would not be protected. Now, what can those people do? I'm going to explain what a lot of people can do at the end of this video, how to save their homes, and a very super secret government program that I didn't even know about that exists that could possibly help you save your home. Now, what's going on right now is that basically the government is talking about putting a stop to all new foreclosures and delaying something called the pre-foreclosure notice from happening. The pre-foreclosure notice, or sometimes called the notice of default, it has other names depending where you are in the United States. This notice basically is the very first step before a bank can start a legal foreclosure against your property. Without this pre-foreclosure notice, the bank cannot start a foreclosure process against your property. Delaying the issuance of this document is a very big deal. This document has legal effect. Once they've given you this notice of default or a pre-foreclosure notice of different kinds that basically says you're 120 days late, then you are now facing a foreclosure situation. The bank can start a foreclosure anywhere in the United States against you and your property. This delay of this notice is a very big deal because basically the government is saying, okay, you cannot issue this, therefore you cannot start a foreclosure. There are all kinds of things that the mortgage companies have to do before they issue this notice according to the rule change, which I've talked about in other videos right here, or that you can look up on Google. But for our purposes today, what we're talking about, you need to understand that this rule change would stop this particular 120-day default notice. Now, the problem is that this does not protect everyone. And I'll tell you the big groups of people. The people who have still not received the notice but are 120 days late. Those people right now, I believe, and I've seen in my practice, there is a surge and a rush to file these pre-foreclosure notices against all of these folks. Anybody who receives a pre-foreclosure notice before May 1st or any time before the rule change, it could be any time after May 1st, is not protected by this rule change, at least the way it's written, according to what I've read. So if you receive a pre-foreclosure notice now, then they can still start a foreclosure even if you are protected otherwise by this rule change. So that's a pretty big deal. That's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who have come out of forbearance and have not made a deal with their bank and have kind of just floated around. The bank might have left them alone because of whatever reason. The bank didn't want to follow through with what they could have done. But now there's a surge and there's a rush to file all of these documents and file these things so that the foreclosure can actually start. I'm seeing a lot of new foreclosures being filed right now, and that's not a good thing. What can you do if you're in this situation where you are facing a foreclosure, 120-day notice, and you don't know what to do? Well, there's two things. There's a big thing happening buried deep in the $1,400 stimulus plan that we all know about. Buried deep inside of there's $10 billion that's allocated for foreclosure defense and foreclosure protection. What that means is the government is basically giving money to the states and saying to the states, you have all of this extra money now to give away to your constituents so that they can pay off whatever is COVID related in terms of their money that they owe their mortgages. So this is a big deal. The problem with this new law is that it kicks in now, but the states have until 2022 to implement it. So basically for the next however 8 or 9 months, we're not really sure what states are going to use this money and how they're going to use it and how you can apply for it. So this is going to be delayed for a little while. A lot of people are still going to be put in situations that are very uncomfortable because they're going to be in default and then foreclosures might actually start and they're not going to have any help. This will come later. I actually saw this here in Florida. It was something called the Florida Hardest Hit Fund. The Florida Hardest Hit Fund was something that I believe was a very similar effort in 2010, and people were actually able to get money later on, even though their homes were in foreclosure. The government gave them these loans basically that they were able to pay off all the arrears, all the late fees and all the late payments, the late interest and principal payments and escrow payments, and make their homes current, make their mortgages current and save their homes. So that's actually something that I believe is going to have the same effect. The problem is that we're going to have to wait a while until this happens. Now, the other thing that you can do if you really are in a desperate situation, you just can't stand waiting, is you can apply for a loan modification right now. Applying for a loan modification is something that even if you are 120 days late, even if you receive the pre-foreclosure notice, the bank will still entertain a loan modification application from you. This is the way to basically get yourself out of the situation and get yourself paying. A lot of people are scared that once they receive the pre-foreclosure notice or the notice of default, that their options have gone, which is not true. You can still apply for loan modification even up to the sale date. So you need to always apply. You need to know that the longer you wait, the harder it is to get a loan modification. So if you're in that pre-foreclosure stage, 120 days, or a couple months after that, you should be applying now for loan modification, because that will basically take all the late payments, the interest you didn't pay, the principal you didn't pay, and put it all at the end of the mortgage and make it so that you can start making your mortgage payments again. Remember, that is not a bad thing. It's also not always a good thing. If you have the money saved to make yourself current, that's a better situation. But if you don't have that and you're in a desperate situation, apply for loan modification. So there's a lot of things going on. I understand this is a confusing time, but you need to keep your eye on the ball and keep moving forward. Apply for loan modifications. Watch your local state laws and local news, because eventually these hardest hit funds will hit the open market, and a lot of people are going to be able to apply for this money out there and make their mortgages current and then save their homes that way. Again, my name is Diego Mendez. I'm a bankruptcy, loan modification, and foreclosure lawyer here in Miami, Florida. I've helped a lot of people since 2008. I've seen a lot of this stuff before. I see the repeat of history. A lot of the same programs that existed during the Obama age are being regurgitated and they're named differently, but they're having the same effect as what happened before during the last crisis. So a lot of people lost their homes at that time, but a lot of people were able to save their homes. So make sure that you keep paying attention to this YouTube show and others like it, so that you understand what it is that you can do to save your home. Have a great day, and please subscribe to my channel, and please like my videos, because that's the thing that I want right now, is a lot of subscribers and a lot of likes, so that I keep making these videos and keep helping people throughout this COVID financial meltdown. Thank you.